Today's video is a bit different from my usual content. In fact, I'm doing a lot of different things this year. In the garden, it's a project that's a bit new. I have lots of new plants I want to try out. The forest garden is still very young. There are lots of things to set up, lots of ways to arrange it. So, what we're going to do today, and what I think I'll do at least once a month this year, is that we're going to take a tour of my whole project. So, for example, to start, we're going to do my little routine when I get here, so you can get an idea of what my activity as a gardener and nursery owner is like. And then, most importantly, what will be at the heart of this video and all the upcoming vlog videos will be all the different plants, all the different things I grow here. And so the idea, it will also be up to you to tell me in the comments which plant, which topic, which technique, or what you want me to talk about in more detail in the next videos. So I'll use all that to make my schedule. Like I said, I'm not really feeling inspired. I'm not sure which plant or topic, but working here at the nursery, there are so many plants and things while my little cutting setup is really taking off and lots of seedlings are sprouting. There are lots of very unusual things I'm going to start from seed this year, lots of very original plants that I'm growing. So there will be a lot of things to see, so it's up to you to tell me what's next. Alright, enjoy the video everyone, and we'll start with my routine for this month of April. Well, right now, since we're in a period where it's a bit cold, the first thing I'm going to do in the morning will be as soon as the sun comes out. When I expect it to warm up in the greenhouse, which stays closed at night due to the cold, I first open the greenhouses and check both inside and outside temperatures. Check the temperature inside the greenhouse. And then check the temperature in my small seedling greenhouse and open the doors accordingly. I have thermometers that record the maximum and minimum temperatures, so I check the minimum temperature from the night. To reassure myself, to make sure everything is fine, I reset the thermometers so they can record the next minimum and maximum temperatures. And then, right now, the best moment of the day, since there are a lot of seedlings starting, a lot of tuber roots that I kept are starting to grow again. Well, it's actually been a little while since they started. The taros are already looking nice. Aloha taros, let's take a little tour. So, among what I've got growing here, let's start with the non-dormant plants. I'll show you all the vegetables, flowers, herbs, there are quite a few, and then the seedlings from the seeds that had been cold stratified. That means all the seeds we kept cold during the winter, and now that winter is over, the temperatures are rising. We've moved the cold stored seeds indoors to various spots and are now watching for germination. I'll show you that in just a moment. Come on. Among the different things we've sown right now, I'm trying to film it for you at the same time so I can show you what we have. Cyclanthera, giant Malabar spinach, those haven't germinated yet. What else do we have? Parsley takes a long time to germinate, so I'm not worried about that. The basil has germinated well here, except for the large green ones. No germination there. So I might need to find some seeds for those. Rue takes a long time to germinate. Here we have the different schizos, green schizos, red schizos, bicolor schizos, and everything has germinated perfectly. I'm happy. So, what do we have here? Climbing nasturtium, marshmallow, epazote, rutabaga. Come on, everything has germinated well here too. It's beautiful. The amaranth mixes. I told you I was making mixed amaranth seeds. There are several varieties and colors here, and the agastache has germinated well. Aga's video then, right? Did a lot of you order the seeds? As soon as I mention a plant looks like cannabis, I feel that's exactly what you liked about it. So, what do we have here? The sausage plant, it's not amazing. Greek mountain tea, it's starting to sprout. The helichrysum too. Syrian oregano, that as well. The vegetable caterpillar, well, that's not amazing either. The sprouts, but we'll have a few, so we'll be able to have a bit of fun. And here we have Breads mafanes, Bonhari goosefoot, ice plant. As for the goosefoot, it's coming along slowly. It's not amazing. I hope we'll have better sprouts soon. Just so you know, I have some in the garden that should bloom this year. Worst case, we'll get good seeds again. What else do we have? We planted a lot of sunflowers for biomass. There are lots of seeds in each pot, and we planted the perennial beans. So the preacher's toes, they're down there for now. They're not under light yet, but I don't care. For now, they're germinating. They don't need light. As soon as they sprout, we'll move them up here and over there. We have Italian beans, so they're perennial runner beans. The Italian variety. Here the castor beans have sprouted well, so we can start planting the first ones. These are from seeds we sowed a bit earlier. Here we have tamarillo, the tree tomato, and here we have Lipia dulcis. It's a sugar plant similar to stevia. Well, it's not stevia, it's something else. We have several tomato varieties, but we're not ahead at all on the tomatoes. However, with the cold weather, it doesn't matter. We're not mainly tomato producers at the nursery, so we don't need to be ahead. We mostly grow them for ourselves and they're looking nice. We'll transplant them soon. Just so you know, tomatoes and also chili peppers, bell peppers, all the little nightshades, all those things that really need warmth. We didn't sow them here, we sowed them in the house where it's warmer because they need more heat to germinate. Same thing, we have some ground cherries there, all of that comes from the house, but now that they've sprouted well, since there's a bit of a lack of light over there, we brought them here. Tomatoes can get a bit leggy, but that's fine. We can just transplant them deeper since they like being well buried. So there you go, that's it for the classics, and now a few unusual ones. Here I have Caucasian climbing spinach. It's a perennial vegetable, similar to spinach, eaten the same way, and it's a climbing plant. So this will be going into the ground soon. We have banana trees, we just received them. We ordered them from La Maison du Bananier. There you go, 3 varieties of somewhat hardy banana trees. What is that? That's doliprane. I don't know if you know it. It's a plant. It's from Reunion and Madagascar. They use it there as medicine and it smells like weed. If you know, look up this plant. It has a distinctive smell. Papyrus back there, which I also like. I'm propagating it. Here I have the oyster plant, whose leaves taste like oyster. What is this? That's arum. Then I have lemongrass, aloe vera, taro. What is that? Obrak tea. Now that's something I found at a garden center. People have been asking me for it for a while, so I'll see how I can propagate it. This one here, another funny one, it's the camembert plant. If you crush the leaves, it smells like camembert. It's pretty funny. So what else is hidden here? So here I have something, it's a test. It's really just the beginning of a test. It's the ferns that I'm trying to grow, except that, well, for now, nothing is sprouting yet, so I'm still looking for information. If there are people who grow them, or if you know people who grow ferns, well, you've already sent me links to Instagram pages. I think they're from Fern Collectors. That looks great, but if you have other information about ferns, books about growing ferns, because I'm just starting out in this and so far not much success with the spores. Then, when it comes to growing them, I found some interesting ferns. I gather some nearby in the wild, right around here. And then on the internet, I found the ostrich fern, which is a fairly well-known fern in forest gardens in the United States, I think, maybe in England, but in the United States especially. Here, it's not very well known. And it's a fern that's interesting to eat, more interesting than some of the edible ferns we have here, which are edible. As long as you cook them a certain way, clean them, because there could be some toxicity. So ostrich ferns apparently are more interesting to eat. I'm going to try 3 new varieties and update you soon. Now, as for the other seeds we've started, these are all the ones that were in stratification, all the seeds that need cold to germinate, which were kept outside. When we bring them inside, it's much slower than with vegetable seeds. It's not like as soon as you put them in the warmth, they sprout. Some years, some things just don't germinate. Especially Sichuan peppers, timut, sancho, those pepper plants aren't easy to germinate. Chase trees aren't necessarily easy either. If the winter isn't cold enough, they sometimes won't germinate. Here, the sancho are germinating well. We already have several. Also, the number of plants you see here is nothing at all compared to the amount of seeds underneath. There are really a lot of seeds. And here, for example, with the Sichuan, we've already put them in stratification, so back in November last year. Well, for now, there's 1 seed that has sprouted, and for the moment, not much more. We have the sea buckthorns that are starting to come up. As for the timut, we don't have anything yet. The tiger nuts, well, those are tubers, not seeds. We can see one coming out right here, just here. So it's just the very beginning, it's starting to come up, and next to it there are things that are working much better. So that's myrtle there. I don't know if the image is clear, if you can see well, but there are dozens, hundreds of them. So here, we're not going to keep everything, because it would take too long and be too complicated to collect it all. But already we have quite a lot. I have others here, so the pawpaw trees, those should be coming soon. What else do we have? Other kinds of pepper trees, Chinese pepper trees, barberry. What else do I have? Judas tree, Aronia cornuscosa, mandrake. So here I'm being totally original, but I really like this plant. There you go, monk's pepper here. We have the oaks at Glandu, and then these seeds. It looked like it had been attacked by rodents, by mice. That's why I put mouse traps here, so I've already caught 3. Well, sorry for those who aren't fans of killing animals, but here with the seedlings, rodents are still a big problem, the covers I sometimes put over them. Sometimes when I put them like this on top, the rodents will gnaw on the edges of the boxes like this. To still manage to get in and eat the seeds while putting up wire mesh, putting things to limit them, it works for a while until they manage to eat through and get in anyway. And the only method I've found to protect my seeds is to set traps and get rid of them. I've already tried traps like that, but they're not very effective. While we're talking about protection against predators, with these boxes here, we got attacked a bit by slugs. So I'll show you what we've put in place against all the gastropods, slugs and snails. There's a plastic box underneath that's filled with water with cinder blocks inside. On the cinder blocks there's the crate, well not the crate, the pallet, and then, yeah, the box is on top. So slugs can't get in by land, let's say. Sometimes we might place a box where slugs are hiding, causing them to move elsewhere to eat. You really need to watch out for that. And then it can also happen that slugs don't come by land, but by air, since slugs are able to climb up onto the greenhouse and then make a little thread to come down from above. Sometimes there's an access point you wouldn't necessarily think of. I don't know if you can see this one, but you know that slugs can rappel down. Here it came down from what? There's a little more than a meter of thread. A slug is able to climb onto a support above the place it wants to reach if it can't get there any other way, and then lower itself down on its little thread. That's it. And it actually looks pretty strong too to be able to do that. So you have to be careful, and for that the idea is to really keep an eye on it all the time. That's why it's really the first thing I do in the morning when I arrive. And if we see signs of slugs, if we see signs of attacks from gastropods, well, we quickly look for where they might be hiding. The other thing is that you can also come at night to keep watch, to see them in action and manage to catch them. Alright, after the seedlings, the other thing I'm really into right now is the cutting tray. I'll put a link to the video I made about this tool. I'm very pleasantly surprised by how well it works. So there aren't a lot of things we've taken out yet, but well, everything already has leaves. The vines are fully leafed out, but not really developed yet. There are some brambles I planted there, some elagnus. I have several different types of elagnus, goji berries. There are purple tree collards, perennial tree cabbages, very interesting. We've already removed everything and potted it all. Comfrey is just pieces of root that I put in the sand, and I'm really pleasantly surprised by how effective the tool is. I personally struggled with several things, especially the elagnus. For cuttings, it doesn't work in water. In moist potting soil, it works with thicker stems, but not every time. Anyway, I had a lot of failures, and here there are a few stems that we removed, which obviously hadn't taken root. On the other hand, there are a lot of them here that are doing really well with their leaves. The goji plants, they've put out shoots, they've grown shoots like this, even more. These shoots here, the cutting is at the bottom, and this is the growth it has made. Since it's been in the sand, it's been very effective, I think, because the sand stays moist. But it's still water that's relatively oxygenated because it's not really soaking in water, it's moist sand, and also because the water circulates. I can't even explain what really makes it work, but in any case, it works even better than I hoped. The part at the back is a plant wall. It's just for fun, just for style. I did it just to make it look nice. There's not really any particular crop, even though we've put a lot of different things in there. Some little plants we found here and there, some ferns, just a bit of decoration. That being said, it doesn't play any role in how well it works. Here, a little thing I've added recently is the shade cloth, because up until now it was in full sunlight. The plan is for plants to eventually grow above the vine and other climbers to provide shade. But as long as there aren't any plants, for now I've put up tarps like this, at least we're cool and in the shade here. So to continue with my little morning routine, once the greenhouses are open and I've checked my seedlings and cuttings to see if there have been any attacks, to see which new plants have sprouted, then I'll go around and check the plants. We've worked on them since all the seedlings, all the cuttings. Right now we're really focused on transplanting, potting, and then once the plants are in pots, they have a short period, like a quarantine, where they remain under intensive care and close observation. Here in the greenhouse on the Bouturette, where I have space and in different spots in the greenhouse. I explained that to you earlier, so now I'm going to walk around and check on things. Here are the perennial cabbages I mentioned earlier. They're a bit weak because they've just been potted. The roots were disturbed, causing the leaves to droop slightly. For now, there's nothing to worry about. That's normal in the first few days. I'll walk around to check for attacks or slugs since they're still fragile at this stage. Also, the fact that the plants are a little weak makes them more vulnerable. It makes them even more attractive to snails and slugs. All that, all that. So I'm just doing my little inspection round, checking if everything is okay in there. So what do I have here? I have some bicolored rhubarb plants here that I had already started ahead of time. Quite a few peppers, some Queen of Malinalco tomatillos. It's a new test this year. I have quite a lot. I'll have some available at the nursery starting next Saturday. There are already some in big pots, so yeah, this is a new fruit I'm testing. I know the purple tomatillo, which I've been growing for a while, but this one, I don't know yet. Its fruits are much bigger. The photo looks so tempting, I can't wait to see it. And then with the peppers, I have quite a few different things. So I'm going to do a little partnership with a grower, a pepper collector. He's around here and we might invite him here very soon. He's going to bring us quite a few different kinds of peppers. And as for what I've grown myself, well, I have a few classics. The vegetarian pepper, which isn't spicy at all, the lollipop pepper, which is a bit hotter, the jalapeno, which is also quite hot, but it's not something that's going to blow your head off. And then I have the habaneros, which are a bit hotter. And after that, I have the butjolokia. Chocolate Tripper, Thor's Thunderbolt, those are peppers that are very hot. Well, and then besides these inspection rounds, there's the rest of the greenhouse tour. I really have a lot of plants stored in the greenhouse in bins filled with sand, like this one. And each bin has more or less a specific role. So I'm still trying to clarify which type of plant goes where. We have, for example, all the plants that are waiting to be worked on, plants that are in crates. I'll try to show you that. At the same time, for example, I have plants that are in crates waiting to be divided. Here I have hops, comfrey, and these are Chinese yam bulbils that have sprouted really well. I'm going to have quite a few of them. Here we have wild garlic. These won't be divided and will stay in the crate until next year. Some rocambole garlic bulbils that had started off really well. Here these are Paulownia, sterile Paulownia hybrids. Some new things I'm testing this year. And here, next to it, these are plants that have just been worked on, that have just been potted, and they should go outside to the pergola for sale. Except that these are plants that are a little bit fragile. Here we have pepino, the melon pear, and here we have Madeira vine. These are plants that are a bit sensitive to the cold, so I prefer to keep them here to really give them a head start. Then they'll go outside soon when there's no more risk of frost. And another interesting area, this is my little corner for mother plants. These are all the plants that aren't for sale right away. These are plants that sometimes I find here and there at nurseries, at fairs, in garden centers, even though I advise not to go to garden centers too often. If you love plants, you just can't help but look around for interesting things. At least that's how I see it. Different kinds of mints. So sometimes I have plants that aren't necessarily well identified. I thought this was canna, but in the end it's not canna, it's Myoga ginger, a hardy ginger that can survive. Here we have the purple tree collared cabbages that I propagated. I kept the nicest cuttings for myself. And then next to it, these are seedlings of the same cabbage, the purple tree collard. It's hard to pronounce, but these are seedlings of that cabbage. I noticed that growing from seed can cause some characteristics to be lost. So I thought if you can lose some, maybe you can gain other different characteristics that could make it interesting. So I'm going to keep these few seedlings for myself for a few months, maybe a few years, to observe them and see if they're interesting or not. Like I mentioned, you can sometimes find interesting things in garden centers. I don't know if you know this flower, it's called Anigo Santos, and well, if you didn't know the name before, maybe now you will. And this, who knows this kind of flower? The Protea, I didn't know it, I just discovered it. These flowers are just incredible. And so, as for routine, the other routine task is watering. Now I have an electric pump in the well powered by a solar station, and the pump is connected to a switch. And so now when I do this, well, there's a lot of air in the pipe. It takes a while to get here because the well is far away, but eventually we have some, It's quite important to water plants well that have been rooted in their soil for a long time. It's less important for newly potted plants since they absorb water more slowly. And then it's really important to keep seedlings moist, but for seedlings use the gentlest watering possible. Use the gentlest watering possible. The idea is not to disturb the seeds, but to keep the surface moist, and it's important to be consistent with this, to water almost every day, especially if it's hot, dry or windy, and especially for seeds that take a long time to germinate. Often what makes it fail is not staying disciplined. You really have to stick to it, water every day, really keep it very, very moist, always. Especially for seedlings like these, the vegetable ones. Like parsley, which takes a long time to sprout if you don't keep it really moist. Seeds that take long to sprout need to stay very moist. Sometimes that's why it doesn't sprout well. We have this technique for watering, and sometimes we also have trays underneath that we fill. So it's in trays, we fill the trays underneath with water. We avoid watering when it's too sunny, but since here it's in the greenhouse under 2 layers of plastic, even if it's in full sun, the sun doesn't hit hard enough to cause damage. Honestly, watering with the hose on the cutting tray isn't really necessary. The idea with the cutting tray is to have a timer so that every day pumps turn on and the watering happens automatically. So for now it's just a few sprayers here and there. Up there are drippers that keep the upper wall moist by gravity. It flows down. I'd maybe like to have more sprayers. I'd like more water to flow and to have the sprayers distributed a bit better. This will be a cutting tray, but in summer I can also place potted plants here and keep them moist from time to time. Since the water comes from a buried 1 cubic meter tank, there's minimal water loss, mostly just a little from evaporation. And so with a timer to make it spray like this several times a day during the summer, it can go a long time without anyone needing to maintain it. That wraps up the greenhouse tour, which could make a complete video on its own. But let's go outside. There are some other small plants outside, mainly in the nursery area for sale. Next, we'll look at what I've planted in the forest garden, and then I'll share a bit about this young forest garden. Well, even though this isn't necessarily the place where I come to walk around most often, since normally the plants here are doing well and are watered regularly. When it's hot, they're watered every 2, 3 or 4 days. Well, it depends on how hot it is. Well, and here, when we walk around, it's mainly to see what we have in stock, what we're running low on, and which labels might be missing. Because that's really it, the sales part here. If you're interested, we're open every Saturday. We opened 2 weeks ago. There's a website where I list pretty much all the plants we might have available. And that's it. If you have any questions about that, feel free to ask in the comments. Otherwise, come by. Every Saturday afternoon we're here, and we don't just have plants, we also have animals. Another thing I do in the morning when I arrive, or in the afternoon, it depends a bit on our schedule, is to open the door for the chickens and ducks so they can go outside. That's it. However, that's not necessarily when they spend more time out in their enclosure over there. Come on, come on, come on. No, 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 let's go back inside. There you go. The chickens and ducks for now have their own enclosure, and sometimes we let them out into the garden. Not right now at the moment. They're really in their enclosure, but we do let them out into the garden. Outside of the main growing seasons, let's say, there are mulches, there are young plants in the ground, so we try to keep the poultry from damaging them too much. We also like letting the Indian runners out in winter so they can help us. That cuts down the slug population. They eat the eggs and all the little slugs hidden in the mulch and organic matter. And this is the first year since we've had them. It's the first year we've managed to do well. When it comes to seedlings, we've had far fewer slug attacks. So for now, it's effective. Well, a quick word about this garden. You should know that I've been settled here with Carol for 1.5 years now. And during the first year, we worked a lot on setting up, arranging the nursery, the production area, the production tools to grow plants for sale. And now we're focusing a lot on the forest garden, but it's still a baby forest garden. There aren't a lot of things in place yet. So, for those who knew me a little before and who knew my old forest garden, where I was in Vaur, the garden was already much bigger and more developed, not exactly for the same purpose. I was also a nurseryman there, but I didn't produce in the same way. And above all, I had more space, which allowed me to have large, somewhat wild patches. Here the garden is smaller and really focused on production. There are 2 of us working on this garden. Our real goal is to make a living from it. At least 2 salaries. Well, at least 2 salaries. And if we manage to do that, that's great, but it does require a slightly different organization. And so in this garden, there will be features that are much more structured, more squared off even, I would say, since we're organizing our garden into different zones. Really for production, these are plots of 10 meters by 10 meters, well, between 8 by 8 and 10 by 10. But with growing beds that are all about the same size, which is extremely practical. For the equipment we're going to use, the irrigation equipment, the tarps, the mini tunnels that we can use on each growing bed. They're always the same size, so they can be moved from one place to another without having to change anything, which is very practical. So we'll see these squares that are 10 by 10, in which there are different rows, crop rows with perennials along the sides almost every time. Perennials which won't move, where we'll plant trees, small fruits, ground covers, and different plants from which we'll later collect cuttings, shoots, and seeds. And then, between these rows of perennials, there will be rows for crops where vegetables will be rotated several times a year. Or perennial vegetables, but with tubers, so perennial vegetables that still need to be harvested at least once a year or during the year. And so these crop rows will change every year. So, on the sides there are rows of perennials, and in the middle there are crop rows that change, and on two of these changing crop rows. In the middle, a pergola on which we will put wire mesh to grow climbing crops. So we're going to take a little tour of some areas of these plots. I won't give you too detailed a tour here, otherwise the video would be too long. The goal is for you to get a general idea of what we're doing. In the comments, tell me what you'd like more detail on. Well, since there are two of us working, we have a certain way of organizing things, but there are still things we do together. But when it comes to the garden, each of us has our own specialties. Carol is more focused on vegetable crops, food crops, and producing things for our own consumption. And I'm more focused on perennial plants, so on the rows of perennials that are along the edge of each plot. It's mainly me, let's say, who takes care of those things, and especially the planting. And right now, my goal is to have the densest crops possible. There are a lot of things being put in place, very, very young trees that will grow big. Here we have a biricocolo. It's a plum apricot hybrid. There are several. There's an apple tree in the middle, and I think there's a pear tree. A little further there's a carragana over there in front, which will become a bush that will be pruned to produce biomass. And then a lot of ground cover. Well, before the ground cover, a lot of small fruits, raspberries, there are hazelnut trees, and then so a lot of ground cover. There are tansies, there are sorrels, there are rhubarbs, artichokes, so it's going to be very, very dense when it's fully grown. And that's not all, there are even more things. There are a lot of bulbs that I planted in the ground, and there are some nice ones that are starting to come up. So the idea is to make it as dense as possible, because the denser it is, the more self-sufficient it becomes and the less you need to water. It's pretty counterintuitive, but that's how it is. I've seen this often, especially during my syntropic agriculture tests. I've made several videos about it. Check them out for more information. The denser I plant with more vegetables and ground cover, the less watering is needed and the more self-sufficient it becomes. Of course, if you plant a lot of things, there's always a risk of losing some crops that might lack light or get smothered by other plants. So that's really something to watch and to select. What do you want to keep? There are what we call sacrificial plants, which are there to produce biomass, to protect and cover the soil at first. And then, once the other bigger plants take over, those plants that prepared the ground will eventually disappear. That's fine, that's their role, which helps the rest establish itself better. That's what was set up here. So it's mainly food crops. Like I was saying, we have onions, carrots, lettuce, and what's this? These are climbing peas, so these are the carrot crops. I'm not exactly sure what's where. Some spontaneous lettuce seedlings here, there. We already have a few zucchinis, climbing nasturtiums, peppers, and more. And in the pergola, I put some perennial vegetables there, in addition to the annual garden vegetables, perennial vegetables that will be harvested at the end of the year. So here I have some American groundnuts over there. Behind there are sweet potatoes, more onions, and then at the back, another row of perennials where there's that big plum tree you see. There are also thornless brambles and strawberry plants at the base. And then a lot of different plants. One day, maybe I'll make a more detailed video for you about the different perennial plants I put in those rows. But anyway, there are a lot of them, and if not, you can always come see Sammy, the nursery. I'm showing you around the garden, so another bed, which is also very recent. The row of perennial plants on the side is barely planted. Well, what's there? There are 2 almond trees, there are cabbages, perennial broccoli, some pheasant trees, but for now there really isn't much. Rows where I haven't planted anything yet. I planted up the pergola, on which I put 2 rows, some American groundnuts, some tuberous nasturtium. The preacher's toe will go in this row. And then behind over there, there are other perennial vegetables. We have Jerusalem artichoke, perennial shallot, lovage, and Chinese artichoke. I'll take a closer look. I don't remember what I planted, horseradish, chervil. So these rows here aren't for our food production, they're really for nursery production. The idea is to produce seeds and tubers so we can sell them later at the nursery or online. There you go. And right next to it, there's a plot where I was going to say mostly alliums, at least a lot of alliums. Elephant garlic, perennial leek, rocambole garlic, so a lot of different things. And then some more unusual stuff, like here, for example, I'm growing corkscrew willow. I sometimes like to do things that go a bit beyond just edible and make things that are beautiful. That's good too. And here on the perennial rows, what do we have? We have apple trees, pear trees again, and then some small fruits, some gooseberries, some jostaberries. I have the two very well-known varieties of jostaberries here, plus a third variety that's not known at all. A small variety from a local farmer that was created a few years ago and that someone kindly came to offer me. So a heads up to jostaberry collectors. We have the barbate variety if you're interested. Regarding the plantations and the different crops I have, in addition to these well-aligned crops aimed at producing plants for the nursery, I also have small areas dedicated to biodiversity. There are ponds, there are small features we've added to the garden, and there are also other cultivated areas like this one or other areas where I store some pots that are much more in the shade. Most of my growing areas are quite sunny, and we've kept some wooded areas, very covered areas like here, to grow, for example, directly in the ground. I've planted hostas. Did you know they're perennial vegetables with edible foliage? Well, I have a few different varieties, and then over there in pots I have mandrakes. For those who know this plant, I've been growing mandrake for a long time. I have a few plants. I also have this plant here, which is from the arum family. I don't know its exact name, but there you go. It's a plant that produces a pretty impressive flower, which smells like carrion. I love this kind of plant. And in addition to this area, we also have some woodland areas where we grow wild garlic, especially this area here where we've planted a lot of wild garlic bulbs. We're going to let them flower, let them go to seed, and let the plants reseed themselves right here. And it's thanks to this area that we can produce enough plants later to go and plant them all around here in the woodland. That's it. For now, I'm creating these first small areas in a very shaded spot. But there are plenty of others that will be coming soon. So as you can see here, it's a very different organization from my old forest garden, which was much more focused on aesthetics and variety collection. Here we're really more focused on production for the nursery, because contrary to what some people have said in the past, it's been a while since I brought this up. I'm not just showing off in front of my camera making videos. I'm actually a nurseryman. Being a nurseryman is my main job, and I make videos about what I do at work. Maybe that's also why I've been lacking inspiration lately. A little moment of reflection at the end of the video. Tell me in the comments what you think and help me out. Why help me out? No, but tell me your opinion. Tell me what topics you'd like me to work on soon. I said I might lack inspiration, but maybe I have too much since there are so many topics to explore. One of the things that made me maybe lack inspiration a bit lately, it's that there are a lot of topics and questions that you ask me in the comments of the videos that are about subjects I've already covered in videos. About seed starting, about sowing different vegetable plants, about soil work, about companion planting, about green manure. So a lot of basic topics that have already been covered in many videos. And so when you ask me questions about these topics, I just want to say, actually, I've already made these videos. Go watch the old videos. So maybe now I'll make more vlog videos like this one where I'll show you around the garden a bit and what I'm doing in my greenhouse. And then I'll use these videos maybe to answer some of your questions and to direct you to the videos I've already made on the subject. Maybe there are some videos that I'll need to redo to update them, to have some more recent information. There are techniques, there are things that I change in my practice, so maybe there are some videos that I will update. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this full tour, or almost a full one, because there are still several areas we haven't seen yet. But it would have made the video too long, so maybe we'll try this type of video again soon. Let me know your thoughts. And we'll see each other soon for more videos like this, for more videos about plants. I'm planning a video soon about clipped daga. A lot of you have ordered it from us. You really like this plant, who knows why. If you'd like to support me, please give a thumbs up, comment, share the video, or subscribe. It all helps and is appreciated. And if you'd like to support me financially as well, well, there's a link usually right there to TP in the description below the video. Just type Le Jardin d'Emerveille on TP. And thank you to everyone who does or will support me. Without you, I wouldn't be able to take the time to do all this. All right, I'll see you soon. Bye.